have another read aloud for you today. And yes, I know I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing in the last one, but COVID, that's our excuse for a lot of things right now. And plus, that was a week ago, you guys. It was a week ago. This is like a totally washed, clean version of this shirt. Okay, so today we're going to do some nonfiction. The first two books I read to you were fiction. Today is a nonfiction book, and it's one of my favorites. It's called Stay, The True Story of 10 Dogs. It's by Michaela Muntean, and the photographs are by Casey Bailey and Stephen Kazmierski. The introduction is by Kate DiCamillo. Maybe you know her. She's another author who writes really great books about animals. They're usually the main characters in her stories, like The Tale of Despereaux or Because of Winn-Dixie. Those are really good books that you might want to explore after this and read on your own or with your family. I'll read the introduction to you. When I was 3 years old, I went to the circus with my mother and watched a very small car disgorge an impossible number of clowns. This trick, this stupefying display of possibility and plenty, made a profound impact on me. It convinced me that the most common object could contain wonders beyond all my imagining, and that things are not always as they seem. We, too, are not always as we seem. Our best selves are sometimes hidden. But what if someone saw us? Truly saw us and believed in the wonders waiting inside of us. This is the story of Luciano Anastassini and his pound dogs. It is a story of second chances, belief, and love. Mostly, though, it is a story of the miracles that can occur when we, dog or human, are extended the grace of being well and truly seen by another. We are grumpy, scruffy, restless, broken. We have done things we wish we hadn't done. But inside each of us, there waits an infinity of dazzle, color, humor, hope, sadness, and joy, an endless parade of clowns. We just need someone to open the door to see us and to believe. Sometimes a dog will show up when a person needs one most. Sometimes a person will show up when a dog needs one most. Sometimes a dog and a person will find each other at just the right moment, a moment when they need each other more than either could ever imagine. This is the true story of one man and 10 dogs. They were fortunate enough to find one another, but luck alone does not turn around lives. Take a good look at that photo. There's so many cool things to see there. I'm going to point some of them out as I read. Luciano Anastassini's entire family, his parents, his grandparents, all the way back to his great-great-great-great-grandparents were circus performers, and he became one too. By the time he was 12, he was a famous juggler and acrobat. Luciano loved the circus. He loved the glitter and flash, the wonder and awe. Nothing could compare to the edge of seat tension as trapeze artists flew through the air or tightrope walkers danced across the wire. It was the only life Luciano knew. It was the life he'd been born for. And so it was until that day in Chicago when he fell 50 feet from the high wire. He broke so many bones, it took 4 operations to put him back together. The doctors told him he would eventually heal, but his days as an acrobat or of doing any kind of fancy stunt were over. And you can see pictures here of Luciano when he's young practicing his circus tricks. This says Luciano is 10, his little brother Giovanni, and their dog Pepe. So looks like Luciano really always loved dogs. Here it says in the caption, Luciano's father, Renato, helps him learn to do a flip. And since we're talking about this, this is one of the text features you will see in nonfiction. This is something that is very specific to nonfiction, that they might put photos or images and then write small captions beneath them in addition to the larger body of the text. So that's something unique to nonfiction. But the circus was Luciano's home. And he wanted to stay. He sold tickets. He put up posters. He dreamed of the day he'd once again have an act of his own. Slowly, an idea began to take shape in his mind. In the act, he imagined he would need partners, furry, four-legged partners. Of course, he could have found dogs through a breeder or at a pet store. But if his idea worked, Luciano would be getting a second chance. Perhaps he could give some dogs a second chance too. So Luciano went looking for the ones no one wanted. Starting with Bowser. This dog was a thief. He leaped onto kitchen counters to steal loaves of bread. He sneaked away with sticks of butter. Bad dog, his owners scolded. They made sure to put food away, but then the dog learned to nudge open cupboards with his nose. He was a beagle mix with a white muzzle, tummy, and legs. A patch of black fur spread like a blanket across his back. That bandit's name was Bowser, and one day he stole one thing too many, so his owners took him to the pound. Penny. She was adorable. Everyone agreed that the little Bichon Frise with the easy smile and the cloud of white fur was hard to resist. 3 times Penny was adopted from the shelter. 3 times she was returned. People handed her back with the same sad sigh and complaint. The dog spun around madly in circles. She ran into walls and furniture. Was she blind? No, it seemed she could see. Maybe she was crazy. She certainly drove the people who took her home crazy with her weird behavior. Whatever the reason for it, Penny now had 3 strikes against her. That's really sad. Stick. A restaurant owner called the police. There was a stray that kept coming around, tipping over garbage cans and scrounging for scraps. The animal control unit tracked down the terrier, who was so thin his ribs poked out like bicycle spokes. The dog had 3 white legs and 1 black one, which the people at the shelter thought looked like a stick, so that's what they named him. I think if I was that hungry, I'd probably be causing a lot of trouble too. I mean, some of your parents know that when I'm really, really hungry, I can be a lot to deal with. Tyke! Tyke was a schnauzer with a bad attitude. He wouldn't do anything anyone asked. In fact, he usually did the opposite. Told to stay, he ran. Asked to sit, he jumped. Perhaps it was because he didn't feel well. He had a nasty skin condition that had gone untreated. Or maybe he was just a crabby guy. Then one day, he bit someone. Coco. They named her Coco because she was a Dalmatian with chocolate-colored spots rather than black ones. The people she lived with didn't mind her running and jumping, but they did mind her digging. Coco tore up grass and flower beds. She pawed so many holes in the lawn it looked like a minefield. The holes got deeper and her owner's patience got thinner until they decided Coco had to go. Luciano didn't care that Bowser was a thief. Can you see? Oh, there we go. It didn't matter that Coco liked to dig or that Tyke was a grouch. When he looked at Stick, he saw an intelligent dog, a dog he liked to get to know. As for Penny, well, if anyone had ever looked directly into her eyes the way Luciano did, they would have seen that she was neither blind nor crazy, but cross-eyed. And that didn't bother him either. No one's perfect, Luciano told the dogs, and he took all 5 of them home to the circus. The only problem was Luciano wasn't a dog trainer. He didn't believe in teaching a dog to do something it wouldn't do on its own, such as walk on its front legs or do a backflip. What he did believe in was letting a dog be a dog. The best way to do that, he decided, was to let them show him what they wanted to do. Then, somehow, he'd figured out a way to let them do it. As the dogs ran and played together, Luciano paid special attention to each of them. While Bowser's previous owners had seen a sneak and a thief, Luciano saw a clever dog with a good sense of balance. Coco wouldn't stop digging. As Luciano filled in the holes she made, he thought about why she did it. He suspected she had so much energy she didn't know what to do with herself. Digging was her way of staying busy. Stick was quick on his feet and enjoyed strutting about on his back legs. "Shall we dance?" Luciano would ask him, and they'd waltz around the circus grounds together. Penny was a gentle, sweet-natured dog, but Luciano couldn't keep her from crashing into things. Finally, he tried making himself cross-eyed. If he could see the world the way she saw it, maybe he could help her. "Poor Penny," Luciano said with his eyes crossed. "No wonder you're confused. You see 2 of everything." He figured out that Penny always headed for what she saw directly in front of her, but the actual object, an open door, for example, was at least 4 inches to the left of where she saw it. So instead of running through the open space, she usually slammed into the door frame. Perhaps everything depended on how you looked at it. Where others had seen headaches and problems, Luciano saw hope and possibilities. Over time, he believed he could help Bowser, Coco, Stick, and Penny become the dogs they were meant to be. Maybe you take a break for a second and think about, do you know anyone else that you've ever met or read about that has really taken time to think about who other people are and how to support them in the way they need it best? You could put the video on pause and talk about that with someone next to you. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. And then there was Tyke. Look at his cool mohawk. This looks kind of like my friend Rooster. His skin problem had cleared up, but it hadn't made him any easier to get along with. Everyone told Luciano he should give up on that rotten-tempered schnauzer, but Luciano wouldn't do it. He was determined to find a way to get through to Tyke. One day, he stuffed his pockets with Tyke's favorite treats. "Hello, Tyke," he said softly. Tyke snarled. "Good boy," said Luciano. Tyke growled and snapped. Luciano praised him and gave him a treat. No matter how terribly Tyke acted, he was told he was a good dog. Eventually, he sat quietly and looked up at Luciano, completely baffled. Luciano knew it was a crazy thing to do. No one with a lick of sense would reward a dog for bad behavior. But Tyke was a special case. He was so contrary, he did everything backward. Maybe he even thought backward. So Luciano tried thinking backward too. And it worked. After many weeks together, there came a day when Luciano felt he and the dogs knew and trusted one another. This would be important because they were going to be partners. For nearly 2 years, they worked together. It was fun. It was hard. It was worth it. Because in the end, Luciano found a way for all the dogs to do what they did best. Bowser, with his fantastic sense of balance, leaped onto a barrel, rolling and riding around the ring. Luciano used a leash to guide Penny onto a bench, over a hurdle, or through a hoop, until she eventually learned which was the true image of the 2 she always saw. From then on, that cross-eyed dog never missed her mark. Coco did seem to have endless energy, and Luciano let her use it. She was a strong and agile athlete who easily jumped flags and hurdles. She was also incredibly fast and could run the outer ring at dizzying speed. All the dogs liked scampering up ladders and scooting down slides, but it was Tyke who made the trick funny. When he got to the top of a slide, he turned around and slid down backward. Typical Tyke. Soon, some of the other dogs tried sliding backward too. Amid the leaping, dashing dogs was Luciano himself. He taught Coco to knock him over, Bowser with, and roll him up into carpet by nudging it with his nose. Stick jumped into his arms. Penny flew over his back. It was a funny, fast-paced act. Luciano wanted audiences to laugh at him and his clever dogs. Look at that photo. Give me a second to really get a good look at it. Do this. But what would happen when there was an audience? So far, they'd only performed for a tent full of empty seats. When those seats were filled with shouting, laughing people, when lights flashed and music blared, would the dogs be distracted or, worse, frightened? It was time to find out. Luciano asked the principal of a local elementary school if he and his dogs could give a show for the students. It was a day Luciano will never forget. He'd been in the circus his entire life, and he'd never once been nervous before a performance. Now his heart was thumping, but when he looked at the dogs' faces, he relaxed. They weren't worried. Why should he be? Look at that. Look at that. He took a deep breath and walked into the school gym, the dogs trotting behind him. The room was packed with children sitting on the floor in a big circle. The first thing the dogs did was race into the crowd. They just wanted to say hello to the kids, who jumped up, eager to play. Soon, everyone was running around, squealing and laughing. It was chaos. The kids loved it, but all Luciano could think was, uh-oh. Fortunately, the principal asked him if that was part of the act. Quickly, Luciano said, yeah, called the dogs back and started their routine. Penny, Bowser, Coco, Tyke, and Stick darted and danced. They bounded through hoops and vaulted over hurdles. They were a whirl of fur, of paws and tails and ears, and the kids went wild. The dogs felt it too. They loved the energy, the charge of being in the spotlight. At that moment, Luciano knew they'd become performers. They were ready for the big top. Soon, Luciano Assassini and his pound puppies were stars. They were hired by the biggest circuses in the business, and they crisscrossed the country performing in show after show. Word spread about the circus man who took in hopeless case dogs. People even began bringing him dogs they'd given up on, dogs like Easy, whose owner said they couldn't help from keeping him from running away. Luciano solved the problem by clipping a leash to Easy's collar and fastening the other end to his belt. All day long, Easy was by his side, and Luciano would talk to him. By the end of the month, Easy must have decided he wanted to stay because he never ran away again. Luciano says Easy is now the most dependable dog he's ever known and could probably run the act by himself. With so many dogs, Luciano Luciano now has a huge trailer where each dog has its own area, bed, and blanket. The trailer is heated in winter and air-conditioned in summer. There is a television set and a radio to keep the dogs occupied. The trailer is always parked beside Luciano's mobile home. When the circus is ready to move on, he connects the dog's trailer to his and they set out for the next city. On their days off, Luciano gives the dogs a bath. He brushes and grooms them. They go for walks or just hang out together. Luciano knows that life can't always be a circus and sometimes they need to do nothing at all. He also tries to spend time alone with each dog. He says that dogs aren't that hard to understand. It's true that they all need love and attention, but they also need someone who thinks they're special. I'm going to read that one more time. It's true that they all need love and attention, but they also need someone who thinks they're special. Of course, everyone needs that, whether they're a dog or not. Take a minute and think about someone who thinks you're special. And that someone can be you. You can be the person that thinks you're special. It can be someone in your family. It can be one of your friends. It can be a teacher. It can be a lot of different people. Because I know that there is someone who thinks you're special. I'm one of them. So hit pause and think of one more. New dogs have joined the act. Wherever Luciano goes, there's always a dog that needs a home, and he rescues the ones that he can. Just as he's always done, he patiently gets to know each one to discover what that dog likes to do. The only difference now is that the new ones learn from the older ones. Many times they copy what they see the other dogs do. Some are so eager to join in, it's as if they're saying, "Get out of the way, let me try, look, I can do it." One of those dogs' name? Mimo. That's the way it was with Mimo, a border collie mix. After only a few months, he was ready to join the act. Free. Free, a poodle mix, lives up to his name. He's free-spirited and easygoing. Nothing ever seems to bother him. Sammy. Sammy, a small black and white terrier, took longer. He's a nervous little guy, but very hardworking. Luciano's trying to get him to relax and enjoy himself more. Rowdy. Then there's Rowdy, the newest member of the group. His owner said he was unmanageable and asked Luciano to take him. He's a beautiful dog, full of spirit and energy, and Luciano thinks he's going to be a star. There's a great picture of Luciano and his dogs, both at play and at work. People frequently say to Luciano, "You saved those dogs." To that, Luciano shrugs and says, "Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not." What he knows for certain is this: they saved him. After his accident, they helped him put his life back together, and he is grateful to each and every one of them. Dogs don't care about yesterday. They don't worry about tomorrow. They live for now, right now. And Luciano tries to do the same. "We are lucky, my dogs and me," he says. "We have a job we love, a job that makes people smile. But most of all, we have each other." And this is just a letter from Luciano. "There is something you should know about me. I smell like a dog." No, that's not true. I smell like 10 dogs. When I meet a new dog, I can see the confusion in its eyes. I can feel it wondering, what kind of creature are you? I hope I'm the kind of creature that dog will want to get to know, because I love dogs. I love living with them and working with them. The most important thing to remember when teaching a dog anything, whether it's to sit or to jump through a hoop, is to be kind, consistent, and patient. I use only positive reinforcement, lots of treats, and lots of praise. Dogs by nature are happy animals, and you should never do anything that would break a dog's spirit. There was a time when nearly all dogs had jobs. Most were bred to herd, to hunt, to guard. These days, there aren't many jobs for dogs, and dogs need to be busy. They like to have something to think about, and they like to have fun. Oftentimes, when dogs misbehave, I think it's just because they're bored. If you have a dog, go spend some time playing with it right now. And please say hello to that dog from me, your friend, Luciano. That was a good story, right? That's one of my favorites. It's a story, but it's also nonfiction. So one last question for you to talk about with the people that you like, that are by you, is what is the theme of that story? What do you think the big lesson is, or the big idea that you will walk away from having learned after hearing that story from me? And if you come up with some good ones, you can send them to me. I'd love to hear what they are. Okay, guys, talk to you later and see you soon.